Hi, welcome to Manifestation Mondays with Marcy. I'm Marcy Newman, as you know, and I'm so happy to be here with you today. I think we're going to have a really important conversation. And in fact, what's so interesting is that it actually came up in my conversation just this morning with a friend. So today we're going to be talking about competition as opposed to collaboration, and what those two energies have to do with your manifestation. How do they affect you? How do they affect your success? So let's just dive right in, because I think this is something that's really calling to all of us, I think, particularly at this time. So let's start with talking about the energy of competition. Well, like anything, there are really pros and cons. So, the pros of competition are what I believe the following. The pros of competition may inspire you, they may have you training in order to be a better or a greater version of yourself. Competition may be invigorating, it might be intellectually stimulating. Competition can be um, something that ignites an interest in you that perhaps you wouldn't have had otherwise. Competition can bring something forward that maybe you didn't know existed within you. In other words, maybe it'll light a fire. Competition, I guess, could also win you accolades. It can win you prizes. It can win you maybe a different status in some way. So you can see if we added all these up, and I'm sure there are so many more if we really spent some time trying to detail that out, that we can see that there are some benefits of competition. So let's take a look now at what might be some of the cons of competition. Well, let's see. Sometimes competition can rob you of a sense of connection. Sometimes competition can rob you of joy. In other words, if you are competing so vigorously that the joy is lost, then competition can leave you joyless. It can also leave you unfulfilled. Competition, from a con point of view, would also be one where perhaps it would earn you the distrust of others that surround you. Maybe you're not available to be part of a team. Maybe your desire to compete becomes greater than the desire for the team to win. So there are cons to competition. And again, there are so many that if we continue on, we'll see that, the list is certainly as long as the pros, if not longer. But I want to take a look at the energies of these two. Because if something can rob you of joy, rob you of peace, rob you of connection, rob you of fulfillment, rob you of being part of a team, rob you of your ability to become more expansive and inclusive of others, then we have a real issue. And that issue is this: everything that I've just described is counter the natural effects. It's counter natural universal law. It's actually counter your nature. So, how do we find that balance then? between the pros and cons of competition. Because as I said earlier, there are some pros, right? Especially if you're winning some kind of a prize. So the question is competition ever healthy? Is it ever an aspect of self where there are definite benefits to it? For yourself, you will need to answer this question. From my perspective, and having involved myself in many competitions in the past, I know also that competition can stimulate envy or jealousy or blame. It can also take people into downward spirals where if they don't win, they take on shame, where the aspect of themselves is amplified that is not enough, not good enough, not smart enough, not fast enough, not eligible enough. In other words, what it can do is stimulate these childhood conditioning patterns where someone may start to see themselves as not enough. And at the end of the day, all of those start to point to I must not be lovable. I must not be lovable enough, or worthy enough, or valuable enough. And we know that those energies erode the sense of self, but they also erode our connection to self as well as to the whole. So we come back again. Well, if that's the case, then how could there really be any pros to competition? And I think that's an excellent question if that question was on your mind. But the truth of the matter is that there are times where competing with ourselves is what enhances our expression of self, where we become a more expansive expression of who we are, particularly if it's something that we do train for, where we become this greater and greater version. And this, of course, plays out in sports or academics. It doesn't really matter how. So, how can that be bad? Well, here's where the real issue is. The issue is when it becomes this competition where someone must win and someone must lose. And if the loser is seen as not enough, then we have in fact fed the very energy that is detrimental to all of our existence. Now, remember, in truth, in reality, we're all connected, we're all one. So, if we have entered into this level of competition where I start to see myself as better than you, as more important than you, more valuable, more worthy than you, what will happen is that will play out in many other areas of life. It will play out in ways that even now we couldn't even anticipate. But as we know, energy is always seeking out other energy just like itself. And as it goes out into the universe, what it brings back is energy, more energy just like itself, or opportunities in terms of experiences where you get to experience the flip side of that. So, this is where personal responsibility plays an enormous key in manifestation. You must be honest and truthful with yourself. You are the one who must determine, is this competition that I'm in just for myself only to be a better version of myself? Or am I competing to make certain that I look greater or smarter or more wonderful, more worthy, more valuable than someone else? Because if that's the case, you will have thwarted your ability to manifest from light. And of course, because we want things to happen in the speed of light, we always want to bring as much light into our manifestation as possible. So you can see that there are two sides of this coin. And then there's a third energy. The energy that's connected to competition, you might actually see as its opposite. And that is the energy of collaboration. And we're actually going to talk more about that in the days ahead. But collaboration and competition are not necessarily adversaries. So think about that. How can competition also be collaborative? Let's just take a look at the energy of collaboration. And then I think your wheels will really start to turn. So the energy of collaboration is one of a unified intention, unified action, unified focus, a unified understanding, a unified presentation of self. All of those are mandatory when it comes to collaboration, when it comes to us having the ability to collaborate with others. In other words, we're talking building a team based on a commonality, a common desire, but it's also based on a common intention for every person to show up in their best light. So these are pieces that we need to start to put together and take a look at how they are playing out in our everyday lives. This is where you start to become more and more aware of the power that spiritual accountability gives you. Because when you start to examine your intentions and the energy that must be drawn upon in order to fulfill those intentions, what you're doing is learning how to set yourself up for success rather than sabotage. And there is nothing more valuable than this. So the next time we get together, we're going to talk more about this issue and talk more about collaboration and that energy. But until we come back together again, I want you to pay attention to how these issues come up for you. Because one thing that I've learned, and that is once you put your focus on anything, which is what you're doing right now as you're watching or listening to this video, once you do that, the universe immediately, without hesitation, begins to respond to you. If this is really starting your thoughts to churn, right? And you start to think about, well, I wonder how this plays out in my life. The universe will respond and say, oh, this is how it's playing out. And this is also how it's playing out. And this is how it's playing out. In other words, it's just going to continue to give you the opportunities for you to become very keenly aware of the energy that you are putting out into the universe, and of course, the energy that is coming back to you, and why. That why is so important. That's the accountability. That's where we start to realize how powerful we are, what powerful creators we are. And so, as I leave this with you, I'd also, of course, like to leave an affirmation with you. And that is, let's go from this place. I am. I am capable of discerning the energy of competition in my life and discerning what it has the potential to create. That's a great one. So, of course, write that down, read through it, perhaps in the morning and in the evening, and let this energy start to percolate and come back with some answers and additional opportunities for you. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you back here next week. Can't wait.